Have you ever witnessed something that should have gotten someone fired at work? If so, what happened? I worked in a milk factory. I was working with a man that was a bit off. We had to take the milk cartons on a conveyor belt and place them on a pallet. While we were working, he said time for a break and slammed a blade used to open boxes into the conveyor belt. The conveyor belt got absolutely destroyed and the machine was in maintenance of 2 days after that. The supervisor left the safe open. At this job, he should have absolutely gotten fired, but his blunder got overshadowed because one of the douchier employees stole $50K and went on the run for over half a day. I work overnights at a hotel. They hired a guy to be the security valet, and in the first 2 weeks he was found sleeping on the job. The first time he was found by a third coworker. We told the manager and nothing happened. The second time the manager found him sleeping in the bell closet in a wheelchair. He got sent home but didn't get fired. Line manager calling his coke dealer, getting really excited. Reappearing even more excited, calls his deputy into a meeting room. 15 minutes later we get the most incoherent nose-scratching pep talk ever. On crack at work, doing nothing, thinking he was doing everything, but was in fact just talking a lot and sweating all over everything. A girl at my work literally punched another employee in the face multiple times at work. The girl who got punched left obviously. The girl who did the punching still works there to this day. Editorial, and there's also a video of it that was sent to a lot of the employees by her. She definitely is blackmailing the owner. That's the only logical reason we can think of why you won't fire her. Me, when I used to show up to work drunk every day. Still don't know how I got away with that. Someone definitely knew. There was no way, my breath smelled and my walking wasn't straight. But management liked me, and drinking on the job was an immediate fire, so nobody said anything. I miss that job. I don't miss being drunk 24/7. My boss smacking me on the ass with a ruler. I got sent home for asking him what his fucking problem was. I work in a kitchen. One of my co-workers will wash their gloves instead of changing them and will sometimes outright refuse to prepare some foods. Tons of times. Came to work drunk? Rode off a work vehicle hitting a member of the public while speeding. Person was miraculously not injured. Threw a large object at another person it missed but was intended to hit. Stealing. Misadministering controlled medication. Guy had a stolen handgun, from sheriff's locker. His story changed a few times, got 5 days off. Turns out, he's a felon anyway and got caught downstate with a loaded handgun and a litany of charges. We'll see if he keeps his job after this one. He's supposedly related to someone big, politically. I worked in a shop that sold tools. Saw a guy take an axe and hack at his own hand to get an injury so he could watch England play football in a friendly. Only time I grassed anyone up, but I didn't want to work with a psycho in a building full of potential weapons. He didn't come back to work. I guess they sacked him. I worked almost all of my adult life in restaurants. I've seen and done stuff that would get you fired from other jobs, but the restaurant life is just different. So far I've only had to fire 2 guys, one for violence and the other because he wouldn't show up for his shifts. Worked with a guy that stole petty cash, became infatuated with our male boss, sent a letter to the local hospital listing our boss as his emergency contact should anything happen, and sent a sign "Do not resuscitate" order to the same hospital, implying he was going to commit suicide. Also claimed the Welsh Mafia were after him. Total Fruit Loop. Got quietly moved to another location. Abuse of disabled kids by teachers and aides in the classroom. Was told I had no right to report them, despite being a mandated reporter. I quit like a month later and am so much happier doing in-home care for the same kids from that school. Nothing too crazy. Line cooks. I used to work with smoking J's and doing lines in between tickets, stealing beers from the walk-in. Personally I never gave any mind, it's not my money. I just had the self-restraint to wait until after I got off work to partake. I once saw a chef pour a spoonful of hot oil down someone's butt crack. Also witnessed a guy rub his knob around the rim of a co-worker's coffee mug whom he didn't like. On a landscaping crew, my supervisor, if you could call him that, told me that I should anticipate what he wanted me to do. Said it's not my job to tell you to do every fucking thing. I suddenly got pissed and said that is exactly your fucking job, and he came over to me and wrapped his hands around my throat as if he was about to choke me, then backed off. Needless to say I left. There's this guy where I worked who takes naps in a recliner in the warehouse, quite often. He's never been even yelled at for it. Shit, he even snores sometimes. But, man, do I enjoy those naps. A guy harassed a female co-worker. We live in the building as we work. He went as far as lurking in his underwear at night to cross paths with her even though they live on opposite sides of the building. He barely got scolded and got scolded a bit more after that when he said she's a whore and whatever and tried to shift the blame on another co-worker. Not I, but many of my co-workers, watched as a man we worked with punched his wife in the face at the company Christmas party. He was not fired. Saw an aerospace welder at lunch having a beer, I was the quality manager there. Didn't bring it up, sometimes you need a fucking lunch beer. Different place, lead came in smelling like alcohol and slurring. Sent her home with a friend before anyone from management noticed. It is fairly well known that the gym teacher in the high school I went to is a creep, if not an outright pedophile. He doesn't get fired because he's been there for like 30 years. He's damn near 60. It's atrocious. I worked in a pizza restaurant from age 15 to 23. My answer is almost everything. Just a tip, when people say be kind to your servers, this is for your own benefit, not theirs. Girl took a bleach rag and then used it to wipe the condiment nozzles that were in use, and she just put the condiments back mixing bleach and food. When I brought this up, her and both managers couldn't see a problem, so I straight up quit before they killed someone. A coworker at Buffalo Wild Wings blew his vape smoke all over the open containers of produce on his station. He also was drinking fireball shooters in the bathroom. The district manager didn't give a shit. Back in late 2020, I worked in an electronics store that was routinely getting PlayStation 5s in stock. My supervisor told me, in front of a group of customers on a busy day, that she wouldn't sell any PS5s to Asian people, because according to her they all just resell them. My mom and her boss witnessed a cook peeing into a floor drain in the kitchen. He was union and at the investigation he said that his boss wouldn't let them take bathroom breaks. The cook got 3 days off unpaid. His boss got disciplined and had to take and pay for a class on how to be an effective manager. I lived and worked with a guy who called out sick one time. We both worked in the same restaurant and shared an apartment. He sat at home for 3 days shooting up speedballs. The boss told me later that she knew, she owned a restaurant, but was a qualified MD. About 2 years ago, a couple where I worked got caught on security cameras fucking next to the dumpster. She was married at the time. They still work there and are now married to each other. Saw a warehouse manager using a pallet on a forklift as a platform to reach a door motor for repairs. We have a gauge. They just couldn't be bothered setting it up. Got my manager fired after he forged paperwork in my name and sent out equipment with my stamp on it without performing any sort of servicing. This is a huge no-no because I worked with survival equipment at the time. Skipping a service is theoretically the same as drowning 25 people at sea. I overheard one of my former co-workers that also happened to be a manager making super racist and homophobic comments. I reported to HR and nothing was done about it. When I asked our HR manager about it a few weeks later, she told me he was just joking around and they couldn't fire him because I may have misheard him. I was working at a call center when one of the team leads was bragging, loudly, about his arrest record and how long it is within earshot of half a dozen open mics with customers on the line. I walked by this guy's cube every single day multiple times and he was always straight up dead asleep every single time. He did get laid off, but if I saw it I wondered what management thought. Watched a guy kick the back foot of a secretary walking down the hallway, she hit her face on the door frame. I was a junior, no one said anything as he was begging her to not say anything and she didn't. I regret not saying something. Call center job. Colleagues started ranting about how black people deserve the hate they get because too many are criminals, and how black people are more inclined to commit crimes than white people. We all came in the next day. She didn't. She was fired over the phone because she accidentally recorded the whole conversation on a customer's answer phone machine. Oh yeah, she wasn't white BTW. People showing up drunk, 2 of those drunk people fighting, 1 guy sleeping in a conference room, people having sex in the bathroom. 1 guy bit someone. Mean Mexican boss lady used to scream and possibly hit other younger women workers. No one said anything because they were undocumented and had no other choice. A tech was checking the airbag system on a truck. He probed the wrong wire and blew every single airbag on the vehicle. Manager said these things happened and swept it under the rug. They never let him check airbags again though. I worked in a preschool. I watched a 4-year-old get spanked and humiliated for having an accident. It wasn't the first but he was 4 and it happens. Teacher spanked his bum a couple times and made him wear a diaper the rest of the day. She got chewed out for it. Well, so we were told. But it was a closed-door meeting. She was at work the next day. I walked into the kitchen to see if the kitchen team were almost done cleaning up so we could finish closing. Saw them shirt and bras up to their necks comparing their boobs. It was on camera too, and somehow they weren't fired. One of our sales guys did a Nazi salute in front of two girls from a different department that happened to be Jewish whilst on a night out. Still don't understand how he didn't get fired for that. I watched a girl drop a rotisserie chicken on the floor, pick it up, and put it in a container and walk it out with the other chickens. She didn't get fired for that, but I did, because my manager was giving me samples of the food so I could tell customers what it tastes like. My colleague's social worker who was fucking one of her clients. The boss lied about the time frame and saved her from getting fired and closer scrutiny. BC, it'll make us look bad. I'm quitting. At a small airline, maintenance was checking an engine and turned it on, while the cover was on. Caused severe damage to the engine, many blades had to be replaced. All in all, over $500,000 spent to renew it. No one got fired for the incident. I watched a dumbass shove his palm into a jam-decking nail gun. Then in shot through LOL, smiley face. That was his first and last day. I've been roofing for years, he said. I went out back one day to get some air and one of my co-workers was smoking weed. She asked me to join her. I said nope, I needed my job. Snitch I am not, so I didn't tell anyone. Working at McDonald's back in the day, a guy I knew would take cases of hash brown and french fry sleeves home for the Monopoly pieces. He got found out, but nothing happened because he was a huge suck up to the owner.